Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Luke from Astro Awakening, and this video is about the Pisces new moon happening actually today. So if you're watching this today, tonight, tomorrow, we're in the middle of this nice Pisces new moon, this seed that's being planted. And the planting of the seed is really interesting sort of symbol to consider in relation to this new moon. Now, I know we're at 20 degrees of Pisces, meaning in 10 days' time, the sun will move into Aries and we'll have the equinox. There's a lot of bugs flying around my nose. We'll have the equinox, which is the start of the astrological new year. So this new moon is the seed that we plant that starts really a whole new year. What seed are we planting? So I want to look at this new moon and break it down in two ways. And this is going to be hopefully a really short video. I want to look at the healing opportunity that we have when we understand the frequency and dynamics of the new moon. New moon, new opportunity, new beginning, new seed, right? So there's always opportunity. Now, we're in Pisces season. So Pisces, the final sign of the zodiac. It's about karmic endings, undoings, releasings, things coming to the natural end of their usefulness within a cycle of development. So it is the sea that erodes the shore and takes it away forever to be changed, never to be the same. So what is being released? What is being let go? Now, I want to look at this new moon in context to healing opportunity, but also manifestation opportunity. So we're going to deal with these in two different sort of sections. First with the healing opportunity, then with the manifestation opportunity. And then we will sort of round this off and, whatever else comes through in this sort of channeled message for you. So first of all, we want to look at the healing opportunity with this Pisces new moon. Pisces is unable to be contained. It's boundarylessness. Boundarylessness. Is it such a fucking word? It's very Piscean. It's nebula. It's hard to sort of grasp the Pisces frequency, experience, expression in tangible ways. Pisces, like no other sign, connects us between the physical known world and the non-physical unknown world. And it's sort of almost like the bridge between if those people that have strong Pisces emphasis in their charts, moons, rising signs, sun in Pisces, 12th house energy, tend to be naturally sensitive to the psychic, experiences of life and more readily able to tap into that. They're also extremely empathetic because Pisces being a water sign, they tend to experience life through the emotions. Now, our emotions are interesting because we can point to an expression of an emotion, but we can't physically touch, see, or actually describe tangibly the emotion. I can point to the expression of love, but I can't point to love. I can point to the object of love, but I can't point to the essence of it. I can point to the expression of anger, but I can't touch anger, right? We can only experience what anger feels like, but the actual anger itself, it's an intangible experience. So, Pisces tend to experience the intangible. Empathetic means that they're tuned into the emotional energy or frequency of experience of the natural and human world. So they tend to be very receptive to the feelings of other people. And this is bittersweet, right? Bittersweet symphony, because bitter in the sense that you feel what they feel. Sweet is in that creates so much empathy and compassion and can drive towards this sense of selflessness or universal brother and sisterhood, which Pisces is known for, this longing of redemption, to be saved, this yearning of oneness, right? So there's some beautiful qualities to that where it becomes challenging because sign of boundarylessness is when we don't have boundaries to protect our energy from the influence or impression of the emotions of others. And where does a lot of our emotional impression come from? But our formative years, the first 7 years of life, where a lot of experiences are impressing upon us. And emotionally intense experiences tend to impress upon us and leave an imprint. So whether you had an intense emotional experience through your childhood, a repetitive experience, some trauma, or whether it was just a very volatile, environment to grow up in, or whether your soul has gone through intense emotional experiences. And newsflash, every soul has gone through intense emotional experiences in the past, bar none. Bar none. We have all experienced tragedy, loss, grief, death. We've all experienced it as a soul. Some of us have experienced it in this life also, and some of us are yet a little bit, juvenile in that sense. But those types of experiences, those intense emotional experiences, whether they be the highs or the lows, they imprint upon us, right? And that imprint upon us is stored in our subconscious database, right? Which is then stored within the physical body. So when we've had certain experiences in the past, abandonment, rejection, loss, grief, fear, unworthiness, criticism, all those types of experiences, hate, anger, conflict, all those types of experiences, they tend to get stored within us. And if we haven't had the opportunity to process those experiences and to run a defrag on our subconscious, right? A defrag on the computer is to clean it up, right? If we haven't had those through the proper nurture and nourishment of our early life, then we tend to have stored those programs. And those programs can run in the background. We're not conscious of them. And then usually the intense experiences, they will shape us in a couple of ways. One, they will shape our perception of ourselves and the world. So if we've been deeply hurt or traumatized, or we've had really intense emotional experiences, we tend to look through the lens of that hurt. And then we perceive ourselves and the world around us through the lens of that energy. And that can really cloud perception. And we're not seeing reality as it is. We're seeing it through the lens of our hurt. And we only then see reasons to feel continuation of that hurt. And the second way that this emotional energy can impact us is through the avoidance, escapism, or distraction of any experience that could potentially, in kind, trigger or resonate at the same frequency as the pain that we hold or the hurt that we hold. So then we are easily triggered. We're very sensitive. We can be quite anxious, sometimes depressed. But we're trying to escape or avoid or distract certain environments, certain experiences, certain relationships, certain people in order to avoid the thing that we don't want to feel anymore. Why? Because we've held on to that and we know what that feels like, right? It's shaped us in some way. It's shaped who we've become. So we're trying as best as we can not to be that person or to avoid feeling that feeling. So then we can't have, a right relationship to experience in the present moment in a sort of neutral, non-attached way. We're heavily sort of cautious. We're sort of a little bit, afraid, fearful, anxious. We're trying to avoid certain situations and trying to have certain other situations. So again, we're not able to experience reality as it is. Because what if there's a threat? What if there's a trigger? What if there's something that could potentially evoke that feeling that we've tried our very best to escape from? This Pisces new moon is sitting on the midpoint between Mercury and Saturn. Mercury-Saturn midpoint relates to the ability to have rational reasoning and to perceive reality as it is, exactly as it is. Now, the negative towards this is that if we're looking through the lens of our hurt, and we have this perception of our reality, we tend to polarize ourselves towards the negative, which is pessimistic, fear-driven, anxiety, right? So we can't perceive our reality, ourself, or others right. We only see it through the lens of our hurt, our pain. Therefore, our perception is creating our reality. So perception creates reality. In other words, it's not the world you see, it's the way in which you see it that shapes your experience, right? So it takes a lot of work to be able to get to that place of neutrality or non-dualism or detachment, right? Because then we can be in that sort of centralized, anchored, neutral place of perception and we can perceive readily. And also too, when we're in that state, we tend to be more cyclically tuned in. When we're more polarized, we're looking at it a certain way, right? And the classic example of this is in relationships where you're in group scenarios and there's certain behavior from certain people in the group, and there's one person that has, say, let's say, an abandonment wound or a not being seen wound. So then when they perceive the group in certain behavioral traits, they look at it from the lens of that, oh, they don't get seen, and they can tend to be judgmental, critical, demeaning of that person or themselves, or they can fall into the victim, oh, no one saw me, or I don't matter, or my opinion doesn't count, or just fade into the background. So they're not able to sort of gauge relationship or experience neutrally. They're looking at it through the lens of that and they only project into it. So that'd be an example of that sort of playing out. So the key to all of this, and healing is always a key, there's always a key to healing. The key to healing of this is to unlock the feeling of the experience that imprinted the trauma, the loss, the grief, the neglect, the abandonment, the rejection, the unworthiness, whatever that is. So you unlock the emotion by sort of confronting the emotion, all right? Rather than avoiding it or repressing it or rejecting it or abandoning it yourself to it, you sort of surrender yourself to it. And it can feel a little overwhelming, like the tide comes right up and the Pisces waves wash right over the top and you can feel like you're drowning. So it's about having some type of way in which you can ground yourself through the release of those emotions. Because if we can't let go of the heavy emotions, the burdens that we carry in context to the past, they're going to shape our future. So perception creates reality, but imagination creates future reality. And if when you look at your life and yourself and a world around you and your future ambition and goals, and you're looking at it through the lens of your hurt, then the imagination then is going to create pitfalls, difficulties, challenges, all sorts of difficult situations for you to experience because that's what's shaped the imagination. That's the creative essence that you've put into the imagination. So we really need to unlock those feelings and to let them go, right? And in order to let them go, we've got to let them flow. And this is hard. This is hard because they can overwhelm us to a point. So you want to ground yourself. You want to have the right support around you. You want to put yourself in a situation where you can disconnect from your life and sit. Find a lot of people that have these deeper, really challenging emotional experiences and traumas and things like that tend to avoid being on their own. They tend to be very busy all the time, or at least filling their to-do list with 1,000 things and feel like that, they've always got something on the go as a way or a mechanism of avoiding the alone time. Because when they're alone or when they just sit and they be, the tide comes in. And when the tide comes in, it brings all the flotsam, right? All the stuff that's been, we thought was in the past, but here it is again. Here it is again. So this new moon, being that it's on the midpoint between Saturn and Mercury, or Mercury-Saturn midpoint, in order to really mature in our perception, to crystallize our ability to perceive reality as it is without projection of it being a certain way into some polarity. Well, it's really awesome or it's really shit. It's just, it is, it's just the way it is. We have to then surrender into our emotions. We have to sit in that uncomfortableness of the discomfort of the overwhelming emotions, right? What we're doing when we do that is we're tuning into the frequency that we have been imprinted upon us, and we're moving into it to let it express through us. Emotional energy is energy in motion, right? It's moving energy and it moves through us, right? The moon is strongly connected to our emotional experience, and the moon moves rapidly through the sky. And in one whole month, it's going to go through every part of your chart, every particular sign in 2.5 days, every aspect, every relationship to all the points. And what's going to happen is that your mood and your emotions are going to go with that. They're going to go up and down and round and round, and they're going to go with this sort of cycle of flow. When we avoid certain emotional experiences, we tend to hold on to them. In fact, what we do is we increase their potency to control us. Because then when we get to these cyclical changes of our emotional state and that we tend to activate those emotions, right? So we don't want to feel those feels. We don't want to go there. We don't want to experience that. But the medicine is in the emotion. The medicine is in the feeling. The medicine is in the hate, the fear, the anger, the resentment. The medicine is in that. And whilst we try to avoid it, we're actually building up a toxicity within our emotional body. Okay. And that toxicity within our emotional body can impact our life experience, the way we see ourselves, our physical health, our relationships, all of those things. Because the tide went out and we thought that it took all that stuff with it, but it didn't. We didn't let it go. We held on to it. Right. So this Pisces new moon, let the tide come in. Let it, when there's that super king high tide after a flood, and there's like, whoa, look at all the stuff that came up to the waterline. And then when the tide goes out, there it is, right? There's all the shit. But what do you do then? Clean up. You clean up. Okay. All right. Shit. Well, that was sucked. We got mud line up halfway up a building, but we cleaned it up. That's what you do. But if we're avoiding that, then we're repressing, rejecting, we're judging those aspects. We're saving it for another day. And we're trying as best not to let that tide come in. And from time to time, it will. Now, as we look forward into this year, and we have got trial by fire coming up, the heat is going to be turned up. It's time for action. You look back over the last 4 years and what's changed in this world and the level of consciousness awakening within the collective. Well, okay, you're waking up. You're looking at the world differently. You looked at all the conspiracies. You see the government's full of shit. The celebrities are being paid off. There is satanic forces that are controlling certain levels of the reality that we perceive. All blah, 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 right? Blah, 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 blah. Now what? Now what do we do about that? When we think about it from the lens of Pisces, there's nothing we can do. We're helpless. There's despair. Oh, right. So we've got to then go, hang on. We have a lot of power. We've been conditioned to think that we don't have any power, but we've got to act on it. And it's like our intuition. I always say this to my clients. Your intuition is a muscle, and if you don't act upon the intuition, you don't strengthen it. You can't rely on it or trust it. So therefore, it doesn't become useful for you. So your shift in awareness, your shift in what's going on in the world, the way you see it, and the conditioning through fear to keep people limited, restricted, controlled, repressed, conditioned into who they should be and how they should be and what they should do and all those types of things. You've had this break from your awareness. You see the world differently now. Now it's time to put that into action in this world. And moving into Aries season this year. So March 22nd, we go through the equinox, sun ingress into Aries. We're then hit by a eclipse in April 9th, right? Solar eclipse, April 9th, on the dragon's head, right? In Aries and conjunct Chiron. Now we have to act. We must act. We cannot wait. We cannot wait for someone to save us. No such thing happening. No one's coming to save us, right? We have to act on it. And we have to act in accordance to our own integrity, our own values, our own ethics, our own morals. This world is never going to act in accordance to that, right? It's going to gaslight the hell out of you to sort of make out that, it's us against them, or it's this against that, or it's a Republican Democrat, it's Israel, Palestine. It's this constant divide conquer process, right? So you have to then rise above that. Let that high tide of Pisces emotion take you up and then hold on as it comes back out again. And you start a new experience of reality from looking to your ideal. And this is where I said how perception creates your reality or your experience of reality. Your imagination creates your future reality. And here's the beauty about Pisces, right? When we're using Pisces, this new moon, to manifest, we want to use our imagination. Our ability to imagine something that's not real or that's yet to come to pass has no boundaries to it. There is no boundaries to imagination. Beliefs have boundaries to our conditioned understanding of reality. We believe this or we believe that based on what we were told, how we were educated, all those types of things. But when we just dream, when we imagine, There's no boundary to what we can dream up. What is the ideal imagined reality of you in your life and your life experience? How bold can you become? How great. When you look at yourself and the potential that you hold within you, the divine spark within you wishing to express itself uniquely through your lens, through your frequency, right? What does that look like? Dare to dream. So this Pisces new moon is about just letting go into the imagination. Because right now, being a new moon, right before we move into Aries season, there's a seed being planted. Now, Aries, there's a little bit of life coming through in relation to this, right? Right now, what seed are you putting in the soil? Hold the frequency of your ideal. Hold or call in the frequency of the ideal life. And then, who are you in that life? How do you become that? You call in that frequency. What would it feel like to be that person, living in that life with that potential, that passion, that purpose, that contribution? When you look around this world and all of the people that are conditioned into this mindset and just controlled by whatever the system is determined for them in their reality, look at COVID, right? So you woke up to all of that. It's being a game. It's being played. You've been played. You've been played. The game is playing you. Now you get to write a new game with new rules, a new you. Who is that? Now, if you look right now in your life, you'll see countless reasons as why that could never be. Oh, yeah, but what about this? I don't have enough money and I don't do that and I this and I got a toxic blah, 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 blah. Okay. All right. So for a moment, allow yourself to just surrender to that. It is what it is. The future isn't created out of the now. The future is created out of the imagination of what might be or could be. So surrender to the fact that life's shit now. If nothing changes, this is it. This is as good as it's going to get. If you want change, you have to do something different. You have to become someone different. Who is that? When you've reached that potential, when you've reached that point, you've allowed that divine expression to come through you unimpeded. What does that look like? Right now, switch off, pull back, come into nature. Find your peace. Process the past. Let the emotional experience wash over you and allow the purifying effect of that watery energy to cleanse. Right? Let all that flotsam come up so you can clear it for once and for all. And then look to the future, the yet unmanifest, the limitless potential that exists for you and for our world. You don't like this world, do you see as it is? You don't like this game? Fucking let's create a new one. Let's rewrite those rules. Let's become all that we could be. That's why you're here. That's why you keep coming here. You keep coming here because somewhere deep inside you know there's something better. There's something more. This isn't how it's supposed to be. Dare to dream. Imagine what could be. That's my Pisces new moon video. Hope you enjoyed it. Deep, but we're in the waters of Pisces. So, fuck it. Let's swim a little. Peace out, guys. See you soon.